попробуем включить свет, наверное, все-таки. Нет, лучше выключить. Что ты делаешь? Hello, Mayowa, good evening. Shegun Fatuma, Monica. Did you people get the notification? Let me know if you got the notification. Rochelle White, did you get notification? Shegun Fatuma? Mayowa, did you get any notification? Please write that for me. Let me know. Michael Babs, Luke Suman Rai, Adeola Disu, Ushe Shuko Amadi, Zainab Bangura, Winand Mulder, Shao Smith, Paula Wodele, Delphine Fombi. So did you all get notifications? Okay, you got it. Good. Nice to see you guys. Welcome. Neki Okoro, Joy Akanonu, Ifenyuwa Ije, Jermaine Trotter, Amy Bobby, Apola Wodele, Mas Thomas, well, nice to see all of you. Today we are going to have a special meeting, kind of, because normally we start out in 1 hour's time. My real live program and broadcast will start in an hour, but this time I'm starting a little bit earlier because I'm having a special session. This is a special session actually with my son Perez, who is 19 today. So there are some lessons that I think we could learn from his life, living with Pastor Sunday and Pastor Bosse for the past 19 years of his life. And so it will be interesting to hear that, and maybe you would like your sons or your children to come and listen to this program as well. And then after this, then at 9 o'clock, I will start my own program. We hope that the girls will come and join us as well and share their own story of their life with their brother. Evgeny Nikolaevich, Don Rashdine Faresa, David Abbey, happy birthday to you. Perez Adelaja, Mas Thomas, happy birthday. Everybody is writing happy birthday. You have to go and read that yourself later on. Yeah, but for those people who have been following me for some time, I've also shared with you some of the principles in our family, and some of these principles is that we are not big on celebration and parties, only if we are doing a program, the church program, but Christmas, maybe the church sometimes does a birthday celebration for me and all that, but we ourselves as a family, we don't make that to be the focus of our life, the center of our life. So when the kids are having their birthdays, no, we don't make a big deal about it. We congratulate each other, have a good meal, pray together, and that's what we just do. So, you know, and everybody do what they want to do that day, congratulate each other, but we are not big on gifts, buying gifts on Christmas, because we don't want the kids and their relationship with us to be based on gifts. Either you give them something or you don't give them something. So we don't want material things to be the value in the family, to be the highest value in the family, but we want the values of the values of the family to be things that are not necessarily physical or material, but values of love, values of respect, values of honor, values of self-development and all that, so that some of those things will be much more better appreciated. Those are the things that will last anyway. Of course, when they were smaller, they will always ask for some gift or the other, and we are always telling them, you pray to God. And if you pray to God, if God wants you to have it, He will talk to somebody. And it always happened that way. Somebody will always bring the gift to them, but not we necessarily. We only buy, in such cases, only when we need to buy something that will really be helpful for them, either for life or for school, then we could buy them. Or maybe they deserve something and we promise them that we will give them something as a present. But, for New Year, Christmas, Easter, and birthday, we are not big on. We could buy, we might not buy. Sometimes we could buy, sometimes we not buy, but it's not necessarily a rule of sorts. So let us, Perez, what do you think about such an attitude or such a value system in this family, whereby you don't necessarily get some special treatment or special celebration or kind of on birthdays, not just yours, for everybody? So is it true? Do you remember that? Maybe you don't even realize it, or have you realized it, or you don't know that it's not a big, that in other families it's always a bigger thing? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I've grown up most of my life without having, like, as usual, parents gifting me things. Usually as a kid, I usually have, like, other people come to my house, have a party, and all of them would bring me a gift. But from my parents, maybe, unless it was like a huge gift. Like, I remember one year they gave, I think I was maybe 5 or 6, they gave me like a cool car that I really wanted for like a long time. So unless it's something like really special like that, I don't remember any instances. And as a child, I didn't think about it too much because I was still receiving gifts from other people, so I was still content. But as I grew older, started to understand that, well, as I grew older and I started seeing more kids around me, because at every birthday they'd get like one big gift from their parents, or every Christmas they'd also receive a gift. And the Christmas thing was really weird for me in general, that you get gifts just for somebody else's birthday. That was just completely new to me, because nobody gives anyone gifts here in our family on Christmas. And the birthday thing, it was understandable for me to understand why other kids got gifts from their parents, but I wasn't really like unhappy that I didn't receive anything from mine. And now that I'm 19 and I'm able to, like, I've been out in the world a bit, I realize that it's not even that big of a deal if you receive something or not for your birthday. Of course, as a kid, it's always good, like, sometimes to give them their wants, so that just to build a relationship. But our relationship is still strong, even though I didn't receive a gift every single year.
But do you know the reason? Do you know the logic behind it?
Now, as I said, as a kid, I didn't think about it much. But now I fully understand that it's just for our relationship to be built on greater things than materialistic gifts. Because some kids only, like, rely on their parents for that. They just want to receiving gifts, receiving everything like that. But now with us, for me, I know my parents are more than that I can come to them for spiritual help, for emotional help. I don't only need them for temporary wants. And I think now I only understood that maybe 2-3 years ago, when I was 16, 17, that, oh, this is why. And it didn't affect me personally a lot as a kid. But now, as I'm older, it's really been almost like revealing, self-revealing of, this is how I grew up, and it's paid off.
And okay, so what is it? What will you say are the values that are better? What are some of the invisible values, or some non-physical value systems, and values that might be more important between, a relationship between parents and their children than just physical stuff?
Well, speaking of my personal case, I'd say trust is a huge thing, where you trust your parents enough that you don't even need to have them be gifting you something every year. Because if you think about it, maybe let's say if my parents gifted me a gift on my birthday every year until I was like 16, and then they abruptly stopped when I was 17, 18, 19, then I would have lost trust in my parents. I'd be wondering why they just stopped giving me, and they just stopped with the explanation. They'd say, oh, it's not important anymore. But they had been doing it for me every single year up until then. So I'd just be confused and lost, and I wouldn't have as much trust in my parents as I do now. And now, because I know that they can give it to me sometimes, they can give it to me not, I just trust them to do the better thing, and that's just complete trust to my parents. And there's also the values of kindness, knowing that it's more like because as a kid my mom was always like, God will always reward you for doing the right thing, and we always got taught that it's always better to do the right thing even if it's harder than the wrong thing, because in the end God will still reward you. And that would carry on sometimes to birthdays, because if they give us a gift, they'll be like, remember when you did
God's
this or this?
reward, that's another value right there. God's reward is much more better than temporary physical reward, right?
Yeah, God's reward, they always said, would triumph anything that our parents could give me. And that really like helped as a kid, especially, where kids, they'll only think about themselves, think about how to better themselves.
That's another value right there. So it makes you not to be selfish.
So this thinking about God and not being selfish, it was really huge in me growing up. And just the way I grew up, I didn't fully understand that it was just a value. It was just me growing up. But now, when I'm older, I'm thinking, oh, why do I always do good? Why do I always think about people? And I understand now it's because my parents, they taught me that way. And if they had just been giving me gifts every year, not telling me about God's reward is more important, about not only thinking about myself, then I would have grown up in like a spoiled child, because I'm sure my parents could get me anything I wanted. So I'd just be a spoiled child, and I'd be an adult now, 19, yet still fully relying on my parents for anything I wanted. Like, what's the point of a human who is only doing that? So right now, because I'm able to trust God and trust in His reward more than in my parents or any other person's reward, and now that I don't only think about myself, those two values came just because we didn't put a huge emphasis on birthdays and on Christmas.
Okay. So what are some of the lessons that you would say you've learned over these 19 years of your life? What are some lessons that you would like to underline? The lessons that this the first 19 years of your life, what are the lessons they have taught you?
Well, being at home, there's been a lot of lessons, and this is just to show that Dad doesn't only preach it to you guys during the History Makers training or when he does it live. He's been teaching us, me and my sisters, this ever since we were born, and we really try to implement them as much as we can. And just saying that I'm not perfect, I also make mistakes, but all these 19 life lessons that I've learned, I'm still learning more and more every day. So one of the most, I'd say, important ones that I've seen is about opportunities and about being prepared for opportunities. Dad has put a huge emphasis on like grasping the moment, but not grasping the moment, but grasping the opportunity, because he's been able to show with his life how he's been able to catch opportunities daily in order to benefit himself further. How he was able to even move to Ukraine, get his job, how he was able to meet my mother. All of those came throughout different opportunities. And just there's some times in life where it's just obvious what happens to you, like you can't deny anything. And just being able to take opportunities like this, where I've been able to go to law school earlier without having to take my bachelor's, where I've been able to take a gap year, learn from my dad, just all these silent opportunities, those all came because I was prepared, because another one of my dad likes to teach is self-development, all this self-development that I...
Is that number 2?
No, that's just
like
1A.
Okay.
Yeah, self-development is part of your preparation, where if you try to prepare, you need to know what you're preparing for, what is your goal, and that comes from self-preparation. Because if you only be learning from like your teacher, then you'll be on the same level as everybody else. There's no way you can be fully prepared for any full opportunity. And that's one of the huge things that I've learned, at least, or I'm still learning through my dad, because he's placed a huge emphasis on this. And I was able to find the quote about this by Bobby Unser, where it says, "Success is where preparation and opportunity meet." And I think that perfectly exemplifies my dad's life, how he's been able to come from Nigeria and become one of the most influential men on this earth. That's because and he took his opportunities, and that is where he was able to get his success.
So how many lessons do you want to give to us today? How many lessons do you want to share with people?
Since I'm turning 19, I thought it was only fit that I'd share 19 lessons, not one per every year I've been alive, but as a symbolic figure that 19 would work out the best. Just because I'm 19, I think it'd be fun.
So you've given us one now. What
Yes.
are the others you would like
One.
to touch on?
Number 2 is also about opportunities, but this one is about opportunities come to people who are always improving themselves higher and higher. And the first one was just being prepared, just always being alert for the opportunities. But this one is how these opportunities come, how do you find them, etc., etc. You find them just by always be looking at yourself, seeing in what areas can I improve. Because if, for example, you're a student and then you're thinking, how can I get some extracurricular activities? Then you join the theater, for example, for a summer job. And then out of there, you're able to go and get an internship at somewhere else. And that just comes by always improving yourself. You're thinking, how can I make myself better? Maybe drama, maybe a musical instrument, something to add to myself. And when you try to spread out, when you try to reach out more to just make yourself a better person, people and opportunities will naturally attract to you, and that just comes naturally. That's it's almost like a law of physics, where if you keep on improving yourself, you'll attract people. And somebody once told me that if you become needed by the world, you can become a citizen of any country, and that is a perfect example of how this completely works.
Okay.
And a quote I have for this point is by Tony Robbins, where it says, "For change any true value, you've got to be lasting." And this quote, it helps that just because you do it for example, one summer, doesn't mean you have to stop now. You need to make this a life skill. You shouldn't just do something halfway, because for it to actually stay, for it to actually stick, you're going to have to work on it hard and hard so that it can actually become part of you. Because for something to stick for a long time, you actually have to put a lot of effort into it.
Is that number 2 still?
Yes, it's still part of them. So for you to improve on yourself, you shouldn't just do it half-heartedly. You should do it fully.
Okay. Any other lesson?
Yeah, we'll have
19.
19.
You have 19. Yeah.
Yeah. Should I be going? Should I do all of them?
Yeah.
All right.
Finish them.
All right. Number 3, and this one is also a huge one with my parents, is that we were basically put on this earth to solve other people's problems. Where this is taught both by my mom and my dad. If you have ever met them, if you know any of them, you know that they love to help people. Yeah. And I can definitely say that I
lives
picked
are
up
totally about helping others.
Yeah, like the whole reason they're in Ukraine right now and haven't moved on to any other countries, because they just can't not help anyone else.
Cannot stop helping.
Yeah, cannot stop helping people. And I can definitely say that I have not adopted this mentality, but adopted this characteristic from my parents. Even it's like they didn't even have to teach it to me. I was just almost born with it. But I was still taught it because, as I've mentioned earlier, as kids, you're selfish. Even if you try to help others, as a kid, you still only think about yourself. So growing up, they helped me understand the importance of helping people, of putting other people ahead of me when I'm thinking about things. And all that really helps now, where if in you could say a corporate world, everybody just looks out for themselves and they almost lose themselves just because they're so focused on just making their life better, more comfortable, where they just begin to lose themselves. They don't know who they are, and I'm able to know everything is fine with me just because I'm able to help people. I'm able to have a use by solving people's problems. So that has been a huge part of me, just that has obviously come from my parents, where I have a desire to help people, whether they be anyone I know, anyone I don't know. And it's almost an indescribable feeling. And the quote I have for this one is by William R. Alger. It says, after every storm, the sun will smile. For every problem, there is a solution. And the soul's indefeasible duty is to be of good cheer. Because when you help people and when you are able to become a solution for other people's problems, you will inevitably be happy. You won't be upset that, oh, wow, I just helped another person. Of course not. You'll be cheerful, you'll be happy, you would have found your joy. There's no way that you would be upset after that. Then my fourth point is about focus and discipline, that they are your best friends. This one, even though I've been taught it my whole life, it's one where I've really been able to incorporate it more later in my life. Because as a child, of course, it's good to be disciplined, it's good to be focused, and that all comes as a child. But all that is really tested and proven when you are in your high school years and university years. Those, at least since in my only 19, I'm still young, there are obviously still harder challenges ahead of me. But so far, it was the high school years and the short time of spent in university which have been the hardest times of my life. And it is there where focus and discipline have become my best friends. That is so. That is because they're able to take me to the goals that I've set for myself. Without those two, then there's no way I would have been where I am now. My dad always tells me, he always reminds me about focus. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing, whether I'm playing a basketball game, whether I'm reading a book, whether you could say whether even I'm cooking. Whenever he sees me distracted by the slightest, he always reminds me about focus, that it is the most important thing. And discipline, it's almost self-explanatory, where we'd get, was it on Saturday, where I think mom was with us and she was asking like how were we raised, like what are our punishments, and as I was saying that we'd get spanked, we'd get grounded, etc., etc. All of that was to build up our discipline. And now you can see the discipline where like you don't always only eat the fast food, you eat a healthy, balanced meal, where you don't stay up all night just because you can, or because you understand the value of good sleep. That both came from my parents, and I can say that they're still working on me about that I'm still not as focused and disciplined as I should be, but I'm still working on that every single day to become a much better person. The quote I have for this one is from Joel Osteen, and it says, "When you focus on being a blessing, God makes sure that you're always blessed in abundance." And that's just like that quote, just by itself, just a perfect, you could say, a wrap up to this quote. To this point where just if you focus on being good, then God will just take care of you. My fifth point is about excuses. A life built on excuses will forever remain in the outskirts of greatness. And excuses, it was just a big, this may sound bad, but excuses was a big part of my childhood and early teenage years, where I'd always be able to find an excuse for something that I did, for something wrong that I did. And I'd always try to back it up under the argument of, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer, I need to learn how to argue, etc., etc. But it wasn't true. I was always just looking for an excuse of why I did something wrong, or just always trying to justify my means, even though I knew I was wrong. And that was a huge battle, I'm sure, for both of my parents, because they were thinking, we didn't raise him to do this, yet he still tries to come up with excuses for all of that. But I'd say a few years ago, I really understood when I started dealing with other people. For example, mom would put me in charge of my sisters, and then I was in their shoes. I'd be in the role of responsibility, and there I'd see how annoying and how it wouldn't help anyone, where people would just be making up excuses for their wrongdoings. And all that just almost made everything go into view. It was it came like a snap out of nowhere, wow, so I've been doing this for such a long time, not realizing what burden I'd caused, or both for myself and my parents. So just that life of excuses, that you always remain on the outskirts of greatness, that's true, because you'll always be limiting yourself. Instead of just going on the steady path of good, you'll always be slipping and doing wrong things and just be justifying it to yourself. And I was able to learn, and even though I still sometimes find excuses for stuff that I do, I've definitely become much better at it, and I'm definitely wary of it whenever I do. And this quote about excuses is from George Washington Carver. It says 99% of the failures come from people who have the habit of making excuses. And this quote again just neatly wraps up my point, where I'm not saying that you'll be a failure if you make excuses, but the likelihood of that is very great.
let me use this opportunity to tell everyone watching with us that you actually have the freedom to go and copy and make to share this message. So if you look under your video in your tablet or whatever device you have a button under the video, so you can go and use it to share the message actually. So free enough to go share this message. Go share it. It could be a blessing to your kids. It could be a blessing to you. So I am learning a lot from what Perez is saying, and I think you should be learning a lot as well.
All right, my next point, number 6, definitely came from my father. It's about manhood. It's about manhood. Authentic manhood rejects passivity, accepts responsibility, and stands up when something is wrong, whether in their family, their community, their organization. And of course, since my father is such a great man, he has to lead by example, and I can definitely say that he's been an excellent father to me and both of my sisters, where he always puts his family first ahead of his work, where he's said it multiple times that the priority in his life are God, then family, then the ministry or the church or anything like that. So I always felt loved by my dad, and I could confirm that. Even though it may seem like he's always busy, he's always maybe doing another live or doing another history makers training, I can guarantee that he does spend enough time with his family. And just this, since I am the only boy in the family, I am the only boy out of the kids, so all the manhood, you could say, rests on me to carry the family name, and I'm also the firstborn, so you could say that puts lots of pressure. But when you are raised right, then there isn't really much pressure. So I was taught from an early age, you are the boy of the house, you have to take care of your sisters, you have to take care of the women in the house, you take responsibility for what happens. And I just think that nowadays there are many men who don't want to take responsibility for their actions, whatever it does, especially when the repercussions are so big as it can ruin other people's lives. And I just don't ever want to become a man like that who will be able to do this. And I know I won't, because of the way I was raised, because I know what it means to be a man, and I know what the repercussions are. And the quote I have is from Magic Johnson, where he says, manhood is taking care of your family and being able to other people, not yourself, whether you can bless other people. And I like this quote because it also shows that because men, we love respect and but we know that pride is a great enemy. And I think he understood where you're also supposed to think about other people. And Magic Johnson is a basketball player, one of the best, and he passed a lot. He passed the ball a lot, and I think he could understand that you care about other people. That's how the team works. He could have taken all the shots. He was very skilled. But instead, he decided to share, he decided to think about his team, and I think that made him a great man. Number 7 is about love. That love is the greatest stimulator of a person, that it's the key for gracious actions. And this one I actually learned from this one where it stuck out to me most was actually when I was attending one of the history makers training, and one of the people asked, what motivates my dad to do what he does, because he's gone through so much. He's been wrongly convicted by so many people, falsely accused. Lots of people have betrayed him, yet he still has the same passion, the same fervor, and he still has the same love towards the Ukrainian people or any other people. So the person asked this, and my dad just answered, it's simple, it's love. And I think he may have been planning on preaching on something else that day, but just the tide of the room turned, and he preached about love, that when you love people, when you love God, that it's impossible to have like malice in your hearts, where even if people do wrong against you, you can't force yourself to do the wrong back. And he said that is the reason why he was so kind, that's why he kept on going. It was just because of love. And that really helped put me in perspective, because I guess at that point I really only thought love as like husband and wife, more in like the romantic sense. I didn't really understand the full power of love, just like for your people, or like love of God. And I know in Greek, or is it Hebrew, one of those where there are different levels of love, different words for it. But in the English language, we just have love, maybe like infatuation, love.
Greek, yeah.
Yeah, so it's Greek. So I think at that moment, even though I've been taught things like as a kid, even if you pertain all the information, it doesn't always click right away. And this is what another one of those moments where it just like clicked, where I was like, love is actually more powerful than I had imagined. And that one, I mean, I'm trying to adopt it. I haven't been able to adopt it as well as my father has, but he's been doing it, especially since he's been doing it for so much longer. It's still remarkable that he's still able to love so hard. But I'm still trying to make love work for me, to love people and to do kindness to them. And the quote that I have for love is when the other person's happiness is more important than your own. H. Jackson. And I can't confirm if he was speaking about this in a romantic sense or in just any other sense, but I think it still works both ways. Where when you love someone, when you love a people, when you love a nation, when you love a church, you just put their thoughts and their priorities ahead of yours fully, and it's almost as if you can't help it. That's like your only choice, where love like overfills you, and you just can't help yourself. And my next point, number 8, is also about love, because love is a huge topic, like one point for it. But this point is, love is the greatest single weapon. Love God and people like crazy, and it will affect how you live your life. And this point, I don't know why it stood out to me that much as well. But as I said, love is just a huge point. But this one, it's more about, the previous one was like more about loving people. This one is more about loving God, where when you love God, you automatically love people, and you automatically become, and when you love God and you love people, you automatically become like a better person, where it's almost as if you don't even have to try hard. All you're doing is loving God, just listening to Him, doing what He wants, and then you can just see yourself growing. And I think it's just remarkable how God has made it like that, where He hasn't tried to make it complicated. He hasn't tried to trick us in any way. All He said is love me, and that's it. And I've seen it work in my parents' lives, and I'm still not waiting for it to work. I've already seen some of the fruits work, but I'm sure that as I grow up, I'll be able to see more and more, and I'll be able to have more testimonies about it. But I'm only 19, I haven't had all the life experiences yet. But I just know that some of these are very important for my future. I just thought they'd be very good to share with you guys. And the quote that I'd say, like loving God and just having a good life, the quote is by Russell, and it says, "The good life is inspired by love and guided by knowledge." And I think that's also a good combination, love and knowledge. And this is almost like a sub-point to this one, where even though we love God and we love people, we also need to like have a head on our shoulders. We also need to be smart. We also need to have a high IQ, because you can love someone to death, but if you don't know how to help them, then you're almost rendered useless. And you know how to help people by using your head. And I just like that quote. It incorporated both sides of the coin of love, like using your heart, and knowledge, using your brain. And my next point is about...
What, can you name the number so that we don't...
Oh, okay. This point will be number 9.
Number 9. Okay, before you go ahead, you want to drink some water?
Yes, please.
I want to tell everybody that you are free to share the messages that are there. And then the girls have come as well. When Perez does 10, he wants to do 19 lessons for us. When he does 10, then I will tell the girls to do 2, and then they will do 1, then they will do others, then we'll go from there. So the girls will also share their impressions with us of living with their brother and of having Perez in their lives. But before then, let's hear, this will be number 9 now.
Yes.
Okay, let's hear number 9, number 10, then from there we'll go to the girls.
And my number 9 point is all about choices. That our lives are the sum of the choices we make. Our choices show what we're committed to, and they reflect our core values, defining us and displaying our lifestyle to the world. And this one, if you think about it, it's almost self-explanatory. You are defined by the choices you make. If you choose to go to church on Sunday or sleep in on Sunday, that shows what type of person you are. If you decide to stay up studying for your exam tomorrow, or you give up and just go to bed and you know you're not prepared, that shows what type of person you are. And in the end of the day, wherever you decide, it is just because of your choices. And it's not like a whole thing where your life is already decided for you and you just have no fate. No, I believe where you have your choices, and the way you make your choices is where you're going to end up eventually in your future. And I try to live by that, where I always try to make the better, bigger choice, because at the end of the day, I don't know where it's going to lead me. It's almost like a butterfly effect. If I don't know what's going to land, what's going to happen if I step on this butterfly, if it's going to open more doors for me, going back to opportunities, if making this better choice is going to open up more opportunities for me. So it's always wise to always take the higher road, the better choice, because you never know how high it is. Because if you take a bad choice, you can most likely predict the consequences, and you can tell that the consequences aren't going to be great. But when you take a good choice, even if the benefits are invisible, you'll still know that they're there. And just I know that my parents always have to make choices every day, whether they be hard, whether they be small. They had to decide what type of school we'd attend, what type of what our schedule would be like. And in the end of the day, I think we all turned out great. So I believe that they made the right choice, and we all had the choice maybe to quit, to give up, to or try to drop out. But that all just leads us who we are, who we become, and we just tend to know who we are based on these choices. And my quote about choices is from Eleanor Roosevelt, and it says, "Long run, we shape our lives and shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die, and the choices we make are ultimately our own." And that quote, it just helps put this on that your life is your own. You have to take your life into your own hands. You can't be always relying on someone or someone else to do things for you. And my mom always reminds me of this, where she's telling me that I am first, that I am the one who is going to take care of my sisters if anything goes wrong. And so she always helps me put that in perspective, where I need to make sure that the choices I make now will be able to lead to a good life, so that I'll be able to protect the people most important to me. So yeah, that was about choices. I think that was also pretty self-explanatory. And then my point number 10 is about the little things you do. They show how you'll be able to handle a big situation. First, you need to be able to handle the small things so that you can be trustworthy with them, and these small things will then help reveal your future. And this one, I like it because it's it helps with my patience, because I didn't always have the greatest patience, because I'd always want the results directly. Even now, I'm still one of those people where it's hard to wait for my benefits. I always love seeing the direct effect of my actions. But my parents almost even have to teach me this one, because I've just been able to observe their life and see how far all their little things have helped led them. Because anytime my parents, sometimes when I accompany my mom around errands and stuff she does, she's always making connections, etc. Sometimes I ask Mom, what, do we have to visit this person, or why are you giving her a box of chocolates, or why are you congratulating her? And she's just always it's the right thing to do, it'll help in the future. And then sometimes I see it's if we need any help, that these people are here to help us. These people are here if we are in trouble, they're able to dig us out of our hole. And this was almost out of pure observation. I was able to see that for me, it's obvious that God will be testing me, because He knows our weaknesses, and He knows that I like things to be directly in front of me. But because of that, I can tell that He be testing me with the little things, and so I'm gonna take a step forward, and I'll be proud of the little things I do. I'll be able to not be content with them, but just be proud of the small victories, and I'll be able to handle big things when they come. And my quote for this is from Vincent van Gogh, where great things are done by a series of small things brought together. And as he's a painter, as you know, that great paintings aren't just done like that. It's not as if they just threw the paint on the canvas and boom. He started with one little stroke, one stroke there, and in the end it becomes a masterpiece. And just like that, I believe that my life could be like that as well. That was the first 10.
Wonderful, Perez. Okay, now let's go to your sister Zoe. Okay, Zoe, hi.
Hello.
Yep, you've been having a busy day today. You've gone all day. Where were you today?
Well, my sister and I went to springboard diving class, but we got held up because we're supposed to bring someone home, but they never showed up.
They never showed up?
No, waited over an hour.
Ooh.
I don't think they got the right address or something.
Wow. So that's why you had to come very late, and it's been. Are you not too tired to do this?
No, I'm perfectly fine.
Okay. So what are the lessons you would like to share with us about your brother, about living with your brother Perez?
Well, forever, my brother has always been an example of maturity, since he was always older than me and I was always younger than him. So I always had him to look up to. And he'd always react things in a better way than I would, so I would know how to develop in a better way. I'd know the right choice by looking at him and observing him. That's my first point.
Yeah, just explain. Is that okay? Is that all the explanation you want for that? You don't want to? Okay.
Yeah, the second one ties into it.
Okay.
And he was also, and as I grew older, as we both grew older, he showed more responsibility.
I think I will just, since you are going to go fast, then I will just let you go and speak, more than two, if you want.
Okay. As we got older, our mom and our parents started leaving us alone with him, and he had to be responsible for more of the things that our parents usually took care of, like packing food to school and making sure we got up on time. And when no one was at home, he'd take care of us. And he'd also have to have more work to do than me and my sister did. And always looked at how he just took it, and he wouldn't complain, he wouldn't whine, wouldn't say it's not fair, I did this yesterday, or it's not even my fault. He'd just take it and obey. And I looked at him knowing that I'd have to do that sooner or later, so I'd better get used to the thought.
So what was that lesson?
Responsibility.
Okay, the first one was?
Maturity.
Maturity, responsibility. Next one.
He helped me understand adults and their world, because he was the oldest child, and whenever I'd get scolded or didn't understand something about parents or teachers, I'd come to him and I'd talk to him about it, and then he'd tell me the teachers' or parents' points of view, and he'd tell me why things work like this, and he'd help me understand what I did wrong when I didn't completely understand. And he helped me understand how adults think, because he already knew how kids think, and he knows how adults think. So he was like the mediator between both childhood and... But he was always encouraging, even when we were in the wrong. He was encouraging us to grow up, and he wouldn't scold us the same way adults did. He'd correct us mostly.
By the way, I didn't say this is Zoe. For you who didn't know Zoe before, Zoe is our second born. This is our first daughter. So Zoe is the next in line to Perez, and so she's sharing her own experience. By the way, if you have not shared the message yet, please go ahead. Feel free to share the messages under your video.
Okay, fourth point.
Yeah, go ahead. Just go and keep on going.
He helped me understand boys, because boys and girls are most definitely different. For example, I like to talk a lot and ask a lot of questions, and I can be pretty clingy. While Perez likes to be a little, he needs his privacy and he needs his time alone. And a lot of things that I see in Perez, I see in a lot of guys, my classmates or friends from other places. So I can get along with them better, thanks to him.
So what's this point?
He helped me understand the opposite gender. Just
Okay.
helps me understand.
Yeah. Okay. Boys and male.
He's a good listener because, like I said, I like to talk a
Is that
lot.
the next point?
Yes, next point.
Okay. That's you mention the numbers so that we will know.
This is my 5th point.
Okay.
He's a good listener because, like I said, I come to him with my problems when I didn't understand adults, and I like to talk a lot and ask a lot of questions. But even when he doesn't have anything to say, he's always there to just listen and understand and hear me out when nobody else wants to listen to me. And he can help me, like I said, understand what I did wrong and why things turned out this way. But mostly he's always there when I want to talk, and he can always listen and give a reaction. So that's appreciated.
Brilliant.
6 points. He encourages me and helps me to be open to new things and try new things. Because I am more introverted and like to stay alone. I don't mind being alone. Perez likes to go out all the time and spend time with other people. And so he always encourages me and advises me to try new things that I wouldn't usually do. Or things that I'm not sure if I should try or not. He always tells me to try it and just do it, like Nick says. And it helps me to branch out more and develop more. 7th point is, as an older brother, I think this is pretty obvious, but he can help me with the future because he's been where I haven't been, and he can warn me about things, and he can tell me what I need and what to expect and how to handle certain situations. And when I'm not sure about something, he'll answer, and it's just good to have someone who's been where I haven't been. 8th point, he's one of the people in my life who provides unconditional love. And it's good to have...
Because I'm learning from this. I never heard these things before. So for me, it's also very interesting. Hello, everybody. I'm also learning together with you. I've never heard these lessons from Perez before, and I've never heard these lessons from Zoe before. So, it's exciting for me as well. So I think I'm going to save this video for myself too.
So,
what's that next one?
The 8th point, he provides unconditional love. One of the people in my lives who provides that. Because when my brother and I, we fight sometimes, and we hurt each other sometimes, but we always...
When you were younger especially.
Yeah. We were made mistakes, we were responsible, but over time, we always knew that we'd get along, that wouldn't break our relationship. We just needed some time to steam off, and then we talk to each other like nothing happened. Because we're siblings, and we're thankfully the good siblings that won't kill each other for power. So I'm happy to have unconditional love from him, and I know now, real love and unconditional love from friends and other people in my life who are not just family. He puts time up, my 9th point, what I learned from him. Like I said before, he puts time apart and goes out of his way to spend time with people, and that develops relationships. Pearl and I are 2 different people, 2 different personalities. He has 2 different relationships with both me and my sister, and he has separate relationships with his friends and his parents. And for me, it's a thing to learn because I usually just stay at home, and I don't usually want to go outside and spend time with people. But spending time with people, regardless of what you're doing, builds relationships, and it strengthens them. And that's one important thing I learned from him. And my 10th point, my last point, is that he encourages me to be myself in whatever way I want or consider to develop. So, for example, when I try new things, I told you that he always supports them. He supports me to do them, but he always supports my uniqueness. He doesn't compare me to other people or want me to be like other people. He just, whoever I am, he wants it to be more of myself, more of who I already am.
So are you grateful that you have to God or to parents or to God that you have such a brother?
I'm grateful to God and to my parents for raising someone like this, and to God for making us be in such a family, and thanks to his influence he's like this. And I'm kind of thankful to Perez for working on himself to become better, to encourage me and my sister to work on ourselves and become better.
Brilliant. Now, can you move this way more? Yeah, everybody, YouTube for sorry.
Lift it up.
But you need to lift your seat, yeah. Yeah. So before we go back to Perez, let's go to Pro. I don't know. I don't know how fast Pro we get, but I'm sure some lessons for us as well.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you say about your brother? Are you grateful you have such a brother?
Yeah.
So what will be the lessons you've learned growing up with them in the same family?
Okay, one of the first lessons that I have is that Perez enforced the principle of work before play, and how he did that is that he helped develop my discipline by watching over me and keeping me in check when my parents or my teachers or other people couldn't. So like after school, where like nobody could like really control what I did, and I had like lots of distractions, my brother would like always remind me to do my homework. My brother would always remind me to do my homework and like even like take away my technology from me and stuff like that, just to help me, have my priorities straight and be disciplined. And that did influence me, and that did help me to become more disciplined.
Yes.
And so one of the first lessons that Perez, helped nail into me, because my parents repeated this a lot, but Perez like helped them, was that work comes before play.
Good. You mentioned the numbers so that we'll know what we...
Okay. And
is that number 2?
That's number 2. I'll say it now. Another thing that I saw from Perez was that he taught me that you won't always get what you like. You won't always get what you want or in life, and that you'll have to do things that you don't like in life. And during his gap year, Perez had to do lots of work, for example. Perez, he has lots of he had lots of struggles with math and chemistry and things like that, but still he would work hard and try hard until he could do as well with those subjects as he could with like his favorite subjects. And Perez would always tell me life is unfair, and that would usually be something like satirical, like if I gave him a candy but then like he refused to share his chips with me or something. But he never did really pretty himself and stuff. Even though he had to go through lots of hardships and unpleasant things, he'd always keep going. And from that I get my third point: they should be diligent and not lazy, but also that you should aim for the top, because during his gap year he'd always work each night to 2 or 3, and also that he tried really hard. He even did more than he needed to do, and he just passed his exams with flying colors and got accepted into many universities and into prestigious universities. And it was great, because if he had been lazy, if he had been just a bit lazier, then there would be so many complications caused when he tried to get into university. And also, he already mentioned this, but he said that focus and discipline will be your best friends, because I have problems with that, but Perez was warning me, because he's in university now, and it's a lot harder than just the 9th grade that I'm in. And so he keeps reminding me that focus and discipline will be my best friends. And the reason I put that down, even though it's kind of a short point, is one thing about Perez is that he's very earnest and he's very sincere, and I think that's a really good way to get to people's hearts, because for example, my mood changes very easily. It fluctuates all over the place, and if I'm tired or if I just find some person not nice to talk to, then I'll just speak to them with a low voice or something, and with interested expression, but like Perez is always kind to everyone, and you can just always see that this kindness isn't fake at all, and that he really does love people. Cause like I like to close off other opinions, like even my parents sometimes, cause I think that they're adults and they have such a different life from me. They don't understand me, but like Perez, he does understand me, and I know exactly the type of life that Perez lives. So like when he tells me these things, then I can take them to heart, because I can tell that he is speaking from his heart, and he's not just trying to like get me to do something for his sake. No, he is very open, and he is just very honest, and that's a very good quality. Because many people like to deceive others, but you should be honest. Also, you should stick to your values.
Mention your numbers.
Okay.
That's what number now?
That's number 5.
Okay. Mention.
Also, it's important to stick to your values, because there's many things in this world that are at odds with what we are taught, and I've seen Perez like go through many like times where his faith was tested, but like he would always go to Daddy to get his advice, or like always like try to make the choice based on what he's been taught. And he really taught me that you have to stick to your values and not abandon what you've been taught. And like proof of that is that when he was in Africa, when he was in a secular school, that his relationship with God strengthened, and things like that. And also Perez taught me that it's important to take opportunities. Perez would always take opportunities, and even when things failed, he would try to make the best out of it. And like one example that I liked was that Perez is like very popular in school. He's like a friend to everyone, and one of the ways that he got that way was that how he got so connected to everyone is that when people started talking online, he just took the opportunity to start connecting with all his classmates, and so then he was able to talk with everyone so much easier, and he was able to get closer to everyone. And so we have so many resources at our disposition in this modern world, and I think that we should take all opportunities, because it will really decide our future, how many opportunities we take and how we use what God has given to us.
Is that all? You have.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. What's the number now?
8.
Number 8. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so my 8th point is that it is important to think ahead and manage your time. So, of course, Perez is a university student now, and in high school, he had many things to do. You have to think of his sports, of his school, of any appointments he had. Also, he would teach other people English and stuff. He had a job. He had many things to do. And if he wasn't careful, there could be so many conflicting things, and he would get nothing done. But he would schedule his day. He would plan out all the things that he had to do, and because of that, he was able to maintain all of his positions, and he was able to juggle all the things that he had to do. And so that's a very firm example for me of why we had to stay in control of our time, and why we had to schedule everything and plan out everything, because there would be trouble if you don't learn to do that. The ninth point is that you need to learn to be responsible. because Perez would always take care of us, but like we were not the only things that he had to take care of. Like he had his team that he had to coach, like a basketball team. He had all the and like when he wanted to go like even hang out with his friends or something, it was his responsibility to like let our mother know and to like make it fit in with his day. And like our parents, our mom would just said that like if anything happened to them, Perez already mentioned it, that if anything happened to them, then Perez would have to take care of us. And so Perez like really developed his character, and he really did learn to be responsible. And then that's an example that I look up to, and I want to be as responsible as him, and even more responsible than Perez too. Also, 10th is that you need to learn to adapt. Like, lots of unexpected things happen in life, and sometimes things won't go as planned, but you should trust God, and you shouldn't always be tied to your comfort zone, because all the great people that we love, all the people that we look up to, they all went outside of their comfort zone. So you should learn not to get too attached to material things. You should know that life will not always go as you plan it, and you should just learn to adapt to different situations.
Brilliant. That's all?
Yes.
Are you grateful to God for your brother?
Yes,
that
I'm
you
very
have
grateful.
parents in your life?
When I was in my rebellious stage and I wouldn't listen to God or my parents, and I'd just do the opposite of what I was told, Perez really helped me, because he didn't force anything on me. He just shared his wisdom in little nuggets, and he wouldn't get angry at me and stuff. He'd just try and help me in any way that he could. And so I'm very grateful for this amazing family that God has given me.
All right, girls. All right. Good job. Good job. You know what? You've been out there all day. I can't believe it. You've been just out there all day. You've been doing diving and swimming.
I went to music school
in the morning too. Okay, so I want you to go home, and also I want you to bring a. I took the plug, but I didn't take the. Thank you, right there. I didn't take the. Yeah, please help me bring that. So, but go and eat. Go take care of yourself. Say hi to mom. And Perez, we have to continue. You've given 9 lessons, 10. You gave 10 lessons on your out of 19.
Yes.
So we have 9 more lessons from Perez, everybody. If you have not yet shared the link to this program, let's go ahead and share the link. This might be a blessing to your children or even to other people. So go ahead and write something. When you are sharing the link, make sure you write something as well. Whatever you write actually inspires people, whether to watch it or not. So put a remark in the video as you're sharing it, okay? Okay, Perez, go.
All right, and since I see we're a little bit pressed on time, I'll try to make them a little bit quicker.
No, take your time.
Take my time?
Yeah.
All right. So
just as it works out. Anyhow, if it's fast, okay. If it's slow, no problem.
So point number 11 is all about values. I'm sure if you've been listening to my dad at least a week, you'd have heard him say value or value system at least once. So it was inevitable that I talked about values, and my life lesson about values is that they shape who you are. You need the values that will lead you on the path of success, not on the path of destruction and failure. So obviously, if you have listened to my dad, you know that he has a lot of wisdom, and he has imparted a lot of his wisdom into us as his children, whether we remember it or not. But since we were youngsters, he has been teaching us all these values, and these values have helped me shape who I am. You've heard from my sisters, hopefully, that they said that I was a good brother, and though I'm only a good brother because of how my parents raised me to be. They raised me to to be kind, to be caring, to listen, to be compassionate, and all those values, all these character traits. Of course, I've had to work on them, but they all came from my parents, and just because it's a combination of two such good people, that it has to produce something wonderful as well. So these values, where they come, they don't just come out of the blue. They definitely have been worked with, and if you're trying to like teach them to your kid, just remember to be a good example for your kid, because he looks up to you even when you're not paying attention. So values are very important, and I'm sure you've already heard enough about them from my dad, so I'll keep them short. And my quote about this, about values, is from Michael Graves, and it is, "I don't care what people call me. Labels have the negative value of making smaller boundaries for people." And I chose this quote also just to talk about the negative values that they're all around you. Like, you can't just even go out on the streets without seeing like evil and just wickedness around you, but those things shouldn't bring you down. This is almost like encouragement that even if there are things that are bringing you down, that you're still your own person, you can still make your own choices, and that you shouldn't give up. And my 12th point, life works by fixed, predictable principles, which is why life is predictable. This is definitely one of my dad's most popular teachings, where he talks about, because it is one that is very original, he talks about that life is predictable. And it has a little bit of controversy, because some people say, well, if life is predictable, what's so interesting about life? And isn't life just boring if you can predict? Well, life is predictable just because it follows certain formulas. It's like a math formula. If A equals B, if A plus B, then A equals C. It's almost like that. So this predictability of life, it's just been almost passed on to me just from my dad, where I've learned that when you do certain things, when you place a certain amount of effort into something, that some things are just bound to happen. And you can tell that my dad has definitely figured this out because of all the good he's been able to do in the past years that he's been alive, in the past 30 years that he's been in Ukraine. He's been able to use his system to make life work out for him. And even when things that are unexplainable and unexplainable and that you didn't expect, such as the court case that has plagued my dad for the past 8 years, even when they come, his life growth didn't stop, his fervor didn't stop, he was still huge. And so life being predictable, it's inevitable in our family, just because we've been taught it since we were born. And this quote, it's about luck, but I thought if I would put the words life instead of it, that it'd work really well. So this quote is by Brian Tracy. "I found that life is quite predictable. If you want life, take more chances. Be more active, show up more often." And this just shows that complacency is never the way to go, where if you want to have a good life, if you want to have an exciting life, you can still have it even if it is predictable. You just need to make sure you take the right turns and make the right steps. And then point number 13 is all about time. Control your time, fight for your time, be in charge of your time. And we talked about it a few days ago about having schedules, being able to be productive, to be efficient with your time. That I 100% picked up from my parents, because even if you think about it, there should be no way they're doing all that they're doing in only 24 hours a day. And I had a period last June where I spent 2 weeks completely shadowing my dad, like going to everywhere he went, being in all his meetings, being in everything he did. And I can just tell you, I'd say after the first 4 or 5 days, I was already like exhausted. I felt like I wasn't getting enough sleep. I felt like I was using my brain 24/7. I felt like even though we weren't like doing like that much physical work, that my body was still like tired, like my bones were aching. I just couldn't understand how could my dad be doing this as a living 365 days a year. And I understood that it all has to be about time management, because if he had written down on a piece of paper all that he, for example, has to do tomorrow, and he told me to try to do it, I'm sure even if I didn't sleep that day, I wouldn't be able to finish it. Yet my dad still finds time to sleep. He still finds time to spend time with the family. Still finds time to eat and to study. As I mentioned earlier, the self-development. He doesn't only teach that; he practices that more than most people I know. And as I said, it's still almost unbelievable up to this point how he's been able to do it. But I've definitely learned my lesson from that. I've started with my time schedules, and I think Pearl has said about it. I think Pearl said about it that I try to be time efficient, and I try to be most productive with my limited time. And I hope that you'll be able to tell that from the wisdom that I've been telling you only at 19, where my parents, they made sure that what they learned when they were later, 40, I don't know what age they learned this stuff, but when they were definitely older than when we were, that they are making sure that they are incorporating this into us when we are young, so that we will be able to be great and do even more than they did, because we would have had more time knowing what they did. And so you could almost say that this lesson was inevitable for me, that there was no way I could escape it, because it's just part of our lives, basically. And the quote I have for this one is by Veridas, and it says, "Time management is the mantra of my life." I just thought that fit really well, just because it could basically be one of the mantras of my parents' lives, because without time management, they'd be like hectic, they'd be exhausted. But as you see, my dad always has a smile on his face when he does the lives with you, and my mom, she always finds time to speak with you. So you could just tell from both my parents that time management is very important, and it works for sure. And then point number 14, and it's about the thing that determines whether you spend your rest of your time.
Let me tell people that, please, you are free to share this link. Not too many people have shared this program yet. Please go ahead and share the program. Go and you have the share button under this video. Be free to do that. That's how you get a copy of it. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, what number?
I'll start again. Point 14. It's about what determines whether you go to heaven or to hell, and that is your relationship with Christ. And this is definitely one of the things that my parents tried to preach, that makes us like stand out more than every other church or any other ministry, not ministry, any other church branch, where our focus is not on attracting people to the church. It's about getting people to the church, finding their mission, finding their relationship with Christ, so that they'll be able to find their purpose and then spread it out more. And you could think about well, what's the point of having a church if everybody just leaves? But in our church, it still works for us great, where we have lots of people coming in, coming out, yet the atmosphere remains the same. And I think it's just wonderful that it's about time that we've been emphasizing this, because you could say that Christianity, even if it is the most popular religion right now, like how much percent of that do you really think are true believers in Christ? Like if the rapture happened right now, how many Christians would still remain on this earth? So I think it's wonderful that my church is spreading it, which is obviously led by my parents. And of course, I practice this definitely. I always work on my relationship with Christ. And I was lucky that my school understood it as well, because they helped us with that a lot as well. And just that combination of school and church and my parents just makes my relationship with Christ wonderful, even though I've struggled, and I probably will struggle, just because life is never smooth. I just know that that is the key to getting to heaven, your relationship with Christ. And my quote for this is from Joyce Meyer. It says, "When we enter into a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, something wonderful happens. God begins to change our desires, and we want to be more like Him." And I just chose this quote because it's just like the start. It's just because that is just like 1% of what happens in a personal relationship with Christ. There's so much more than Him like not controlling your desires, but us being more like Him. There's just so much more, and that you get to experience it all if you have a relationship with Christ. And you all know what I'm talking about. if you do. Point number 15. We renew our minds through the pain we go through and also by the new information we gain through new experiences. And this has definitely been a point that my parents have taught me through childhood about pain and learning from your mistakes, where pain, they didn't put it out as like an awful thing, where sometimes as parents they can be overprotective. They'll be like they never want their child to be hurt in any way. But my parents, of course, they cared for us. They didn't want us to get hurt, but they would use every time we messed up, every time we got hurt, as a lesson to teach us. Where, for example, if we touch the stove, the classic example of touching the stove when it's hot, well, you're in pain, your finger hurts, and you know why? Because now you shouldn't touch the stove. Some people, they just maybe yell at their kids like, don't touch the stove when it's hot, or be like, oh, look what you've done, it's all your fault, for example. Our parents, they took care of us and they explained why, and they did this for every fact. And I just think it's essential for people to grow up with this, because now the mentality I have now is that when I'm going through some pain or when I'm going through a tough time, then I'm just waiting to find out what the lesson I can get from it. And the sub point to this is also when you're going through tough times, that also means that God is about to do something wonderful in your life. And I just remember one time when my dad, I think somebody said something wrong in the newspaper about him, and then all I see is my dad just rejoicing. And it almost seemed ironic, like, why is my dad so happy when it seems like such a dire situation? And he just said like the wise words, I know that when something wrong is happening, that God is about to come and make it right. And that's just like a beautiful example, like, of just why I believe in this so much, where if I just know now that like the law school I'm going through, that the pain, it'll all be worth it afterwards. And the quote I have for this is from John. Most people want to avoid pain, and discipline is usually painful. I just thought it was like a funny quote where they want to avoid pain, so they pain to discipline themselves, not to get into like trouble, into pain. But then what they don't realize is that to discipline themselves, they're actually going through pain. I just thought that was a pretty smart quote. And then point 16. We must in a way where people see God through us. This ties in more with the points above, where what our church preaches, where you don't want to just go out and say you're a Christian, just boast it. People should know that you're a Christian without you telling them that you're a Christian. It should be obvious just by the way you act, by the way you treat people. And this is clearly, I mean, I can't say that there's been like times where people have just been like to my parents, oh, of course you have to be a Christian, right? I mean, because my parents are well known and they're pastors, so, and since I've been a kid, I've obviously known that they're Christians. So that point is just like almost like a point of logic. And there definitely have been many testimonies about that in our church, where people would go to a new community, they would just implement the values that they were taught at our church, and out of nowhere they'd be like, wow, so this, and other people would comment like, wow, so this is what a real Christian looks like, or something like that. And that's just like almost, it's a lesson, but it's also like a goal that I'm trying to strive to, where I don't have to like introduce myself as a Christian, because Christianity almost has like a negative connotation at this point, with people like being hypocrites and fundamentalists. So it's almost like I don't have to prove to you that I'm Christian, you would just see it by watching me.
Amen.
And that's almost like a goal for me as much as it is a lesson.
Yeah.
And the quote I have for this is from Miles Monroe, one of my dad's dear friends. The value of life is not in its duration, but in its donation. You are not important because of how long you live. You're important because of how effectively you live. And that just wraps it up quite right. You could live up to 100 and it wouldn't even matter. But then you could still die at like 30 or early 40, and then you could have made a massive impact on the world. So it really depends on how you act and how people see you, and if you are really proclaiming God through you. Point 17. Who will go with me when I go into the world? Of course, it would be my family, but also it is important to find and develop a community that will support you. And this one, it just shows, it was also, I started thinking about it more when I was growing up, where I'm thinking, okay, I'm the firstborn. If something happens to my parents, I'll be responsible for my sisters. Will I be able to do it myself? And that's where I started thinking about community. Am I involving myself with the right people? Am I making sure that the relationships I am in, are they superficial? Are they fake? Or are they actually strong and based on the Lord? And this is a whole community aspect where when I was in Ukraine, I lived in a great community, great Christian community, good private Christian school, and it was just a wonderful community. But you always, for now, since I'm going to university, it's harder to find a community like that. So this one is just more about choosing your friends wisely, basically. And since I'm a social person, as Zoe and Pearl eloquently mentioned, that I spent a lot of time out with my friends before, and that's just because you need to make sure that you're choosing the right friends, that you're not wasting your time with people who are just trying to take advantage of you, or they won't be there for you when you actually need them. And it's like the story of the prodigal son, where when he went to the city and he thought he had all these friends, but they just were using him for his money. As soon as he ran out of his money, his friends ran away as well. So we should be able to choose our friends very wisely. And then this quote about this is from Anthony J. D'Angelo. It says, "Without a sense of caring, there can be no sense of community." And that just be the emphasis of community, where there really has to be a whole atmosphere of caring for each other. Because I say it's quite obvious to see if your friends really do care or not. Point number 18. Life always demands a bit more than what you're comfortable with. And this is definitely one where I remember being taught from my childhood. And I think it is because I asked once, to ask my parents why they're going through hard times, I think. And I think that was similar. I can't really recall the experience right away, but what I'm assuming is that they said something along the lines of, life isn't as comfortable, life always demands more than you're comfortable with, that you should always step out of your comfort zone. And I think that's also a reason why our parents, they made us do all these extracurricular activities as kids, so that we'd be able to, of course, have a bigger skill set, but also be able to step out of our comfort zone, be able to go out and almost conquer and not always be comfortable. And this is also the reason why my mom said she pushed for me to get a job while I was at university. She said that it wasn't necessarily for the money, because that financial problems is an issue when you're with the Lord, but she said that it's just, one, for the experience, and two, just to get out of your comfort zone. And even though it's not always nice to be waking up early every Saturday to go to work, it's still a great opportunity, still a great experience for me. And I understand, as I said earlier, that when I know that I'm going through a tough time, I know that God's right around the corner. And it's almost the same here, where I know that every time I step out of my comfort zone, that I'll be able to get good things out of it. And I know that even if my comfort zone is very comfortable, it's only temporary, where when I grow up and when I made those hard times getting out of the comfort zone, they will be worth it. My quote from this is from Jim Rohn, and it says, "We must all suffer one of two things, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret or disappointment." And that is a perfect quote for this, where it's either you stay in your comfort zone, and years later you still suffer with pain or disappointment, or you get out now, you go through the suffering of getting out, pain of discipline, and then many years later it's all be worth it. And point number 19, my last point, great future attracts greater distractions. The greater your future is, the greater your opposition will be. And this one, you should automatically know that that's straight from my parents, where that's also one where I've observed and one that's been taught to me, where, because if I'm asking at a young age, why are my parents going through such hard times, you could already imagine what was going on, if a kid could even notice how hard the devil was trying to oppress my parents. And all this is just, and it's just, this one seems so self-explanatory, that the devil will do anything in his power to stop you if he knows that you're doing a great future, if you're going to have a great future. He can see it, basically, if you're climbing up the ranks, and he will throw out anything at you, whether it be temptations, whether it be some persecution, some grief. He'll try to throw out anything at you to stop you. But you always need to remember, the harder your life is, God is right around the corner. And that's just, as I said, and the greater the reward. And this is, as I said, I'm 19 and my parents have been with me the whole time. So I can't say compared to other people that I've been through like such huge persecutions. But I know that I will in the future. And these life lessons, even though not all of them have applied to me a lot yet, I still need to know them, inside out for my future, because I know that they will become very applicable for me, especially if I am like father, like son. And my final quote for all this: successful people maintain a positive focus in life, no matter what is going around them. They stay focused on their past successes rather than their past failures, and on the next action steps they need to take them to get closer to the fulfillment of their goals rather than all the other distractions that life presents to them. By Jack Canfield. So those were the 19, I said, not only 19, but the 19 most important points that I picked out that I thought I'd share with you guys. Then this is just showing that my parents, even though they do spend a lot of time working for God, they spent even more time with the family. They've implanted all of these into me, and I know that with these, I'm going to have a great future. Thank you all for listening to me. God bless you all.
So thank you so very much, Perez. Good job. Now, you all know that we are 30 minutes late to my program. My program was supposed to start 30 minutes ago, but I couldn't just stop this because I'm hearing all these lessons for the first time from Perez and from the girls. And so, Perez, happy birthday to you. What did you do today on your birthday? It might be interesting for people to know.
This morning I played some basketball just because of trying to stay in shape. So I went and played some basketball, came home, I prepared a bit, did some self-development. Then I was waiting for my sisters. We were supposed to have dinner, but they came a little bit late. So I was preparing, setting the table, preparing like cups, the dishes, and then I read some as well. And then I came here to do. So it was a really chill, relaxing day. I didn't want anything huge. I just wanted to spend it with my family.
Okay, so basketball was the huge thing.
Yes.
But you've been here doing this for 1.5 hours now.
Time is definitely free.
This is a huge thing because there are people from about 100 countries here. So this is a big one.
Like you and me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Perez. I'm very, very proud of you. I'm sure Mommy is very proud of you. She is the one that owns all the credit for this, most of it. But I've been around too, so thank God. God used persecution and court case to grant me. So, because before when you were younger, you remember I used to travel a lot, but it's like everything works out for good. I've been around for the past 8 years, not going out of Ukraine, and those are the 8 most critical years of your life that I've been around, so that's beautiful. So when God is doing good, we think he's doing evil, but he is wise. So I'm glad that God accepts you and that you are doing God proud. You are doing us proud, but most importantly, you've got to do your generation proud. And it doesn't make any, it doesn't make any difference if your generation will not change and if they will not imbibe these values. So it's not just about you having the value system. It's about getting your generation, imposing these values upon your generation and compelling them to live right. That's what makes the difference.
I see.
copying it to yourself and just being the only nice one doesn't benefit anybody else. That's again being egocentric, and selfish. But designing and coming forth with ideas and technology and ways to bring them out there and really compel people to change their lifestyle through wisdom, without them being pushed or something, but just getting the message. It's one of the greatest things you could do for you, not just your friends, but for your generation. And see, that's one of the reasons you will go and read all the comments and see all the love and all the excitement people are putting out there. So you'll see that you've been a blessing to a lot of people today. So thank you so much, Perez.
Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Have a good day. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Go meet the girls and take your dinner.
All right.
And maybe I'll come and meet you when I'm through today.
All right.
All right. See you. Blessings. Bye. Okay, you guys, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a break for 5-10 minutes, and I'm going to come back to you. 5-10 minutes break, and I'm going to come back. I want you to recover from Perez's lessons first. 5-10 minutes break. Let me go to the restroom, and you might need to go to the restroom as well. Then we come back to do our own serious stuff. My topic today, let me tell you my topic today. The topic I'm going to be speaking on today is, where did I write it down? I wrote it down somewhere. Let me tell you the topic. In the next 10 minutes time, I'm going to be speaking on the topic of the devastating effects of miracle-focused gospel. The devastating effect of miracle-focused gospel. The devastating effect of miracle-focused gospel. The devastating effect of miracle-focused gospel. But before I go, for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, please go and share this message. I think you really need to share it and show it to your children. And for you to get a copy of it, you need to share it. So just look under your video, under this video, you'll see a button or something like that that will show you that you could actually share the thing. So go press the share button. Once you press the share button, you'll be able to watch it again, and you'll be able to go through all these points, because nobody can remember all these points just like that. That's why you need to go share them. So let's go share all this stuff message. In 10 minutes time, I will be back. All right? God bless you.